In layman's terms, money laundering is the washing and cleaning of dirty money. Not so layman that you literally throw cash into a washing machine and crank that bitch up to supercycle to clean it, but layman enough as in the act of turning dirty and illegally obtained money into legal usable tender. It's kind of like how you would wash and clean your clothes, but instead of some denim jeans and a questionable tie-dye jumper, it's the criminally obtained blood money brutally achieved by committing the worst crimes imaginable and causing irreparable damage to society. Cool? You take said dirty money, put it into a legal business, and what comes back is legal, clean, and usable moolah. Since Al Capone in the early 1920s, money laundering has changed drastically over the years. From literal laundromats and shill businesses to crypto exchanges and offshore accounts. So crazily enough, yeah, those crypto bros you think are actually just massive neeks might actually be laundering money for some crazy, scary South American cartel called the Skull Smashers. Or something like that, man. I mean, I don't really know anything about gang law, to be honest. It could be anyone. Although, I somehow doubt that. I mean, look at them. Is that really someone who works for the cartel? I mean, maybe. I mean, who knows? But why is this? What does that all actually really mean? How does it work? And how can you, a desperate criminal in need, do this and get away with it all? Well, if you listen to me, probably not. No, probably, honestly, no chance. No chance you'll get away with it. So you've clicked on this video for one of two reasons. Reason one, you've seen this thing and thought, you know what, this is either going to be an absolute hilarious wreck of a video or it might actually be quite decent. Which of those it's going to be at this point, I could not tell you. I really couldn't. The other reason is you're actually quite interested in the topic of what money laundering is and how it all works, as explained by someone who's probably, likely, almost definitely not mentally all there and is represented on screen by a humanized sock thing. So yeah, I mean, I think it's time to reevaluate all our lives, I fear, at this point. Now, there is a slight chance, I mean, a very slight chance, you might be watching this for a secret third reason. That being, you are in fact a criminal and have literally just successfully robbed a bank and are now cowering in the toilets wondering what to do next. And if that is the case, I want you to listen very carefully and very closely. They're in here. The robbers are in here, guys. In the cubicles, they're in here. They're in here. Money laundering as a concept has been around since form of currency began. The Egyptians, the Brits, the Romans, aliens even, I mean, your filthy grandmother, anyone at some point in time could have laundered money one way or another. And let's be honest here, she probably did. That being said, however, it had no official rhyme, rhythm, or name yet, and wouldn't do until somewhat recently. In the early 1920s, legendary gangster, businessman, and possibly the individual with the hardest name I've maybe ever heard, Al Scarface Capone, according to pretty much everywhere, originated the term money laundering. This all came about as he was a big scary mobster man and all his money was obtained via naughty illegal boy behaviour, and his money was not obtained legally. That meaning, in case you didn't know, he was a brutal crime boss who made his fortune selling drugs and illegal goods, prostitution, robbery, and essentially everything in the book you shouldn't do. He couldn't just take all of that stolen dirty money and then use it openly, as it could be traced and tracked back to him, which obviously would not be great. His solution was to heavily invest his money into cash-intensive businesses such as laundromats and clubs, which allowed him to mix his illegal proceeds with the legitimate earnings, acting as a front. This basically meant tracing the source of his wealth was extremely difficult for law enforcement to do, as it would cover his tracks. Now, if that all sounds a bit too sneaky, I don't blame you, so think of it like this. If his overall earnings suddenly went up by 200%, it would look crazy sus on him. So the front would cover for this by falsely reporting higher numbers and records for that week, effectively laundering the illegal 200% rise. If he didn't have that front, he would have just got 200% richer out of seemingly nowhere. He needed to do this so no one questioned or looked into why this guy was living at large and how he was doing it all. It's kinda like, say your nan gives you some sweets, your parents won't be mad at you as it's come from your lovely old nan and not some creepy guy down a dark alleyway. The sweet laundering comes into play as what your parents don't know is most of that candy did in fact come from a creepy guy down a dark alleyway, they just thought it was all safely obtained from your nan. Which is a great segue for me to say this. Hey, it's me, Soxy TV. Kids, please don't go down dark alleyways to get candy from creepy guys. I know this guy does it on his stream a lot, but I promise you that shit is not gonna end well, and you will not get any free candy. Alright, thank you. Fast forward 100 years and things have changed and evolved quite a bit. We've come from throwing money in the strip club and saying, yep, that's all now totally legitimate funds, Tiffany Rainbow Slutshine just worked on those bills, it's definitely now 100% fine and legal. To, I've just converted $40 million worth of cocaine into Dogecoin and now everything is apparently just fine, I think. I can get away with it? Okay, cool, nice. Money laundering used to be an honourable severe crime, with genius schemes like financing a laundromat to wash naughty boy money and threatening severe violence on some elderly accountant to cover your tracks. The good old days, honestly. What went wrong? What went wrong? Now, Larry, age 50, owner of Dodgy Dude Industries, just has a few offshore accounts in Luxembourg and owns a few poorly built houses to rent out to some unfortunate tenants. And if you're listening, Larry, please, I need you to fix this fucking toilet, man, please, please. In today's world, money laundering is done in a plethora of ways. Buying assets such as art, stocks and bonds, cryptocurrencies, offshore accounts, real estate, business ventures, and just a lot of other random shit, to be honest. I'd imagine, most of the time, overlapping each other and intertwining to make it that much more difficult to track. All of these methods, however, follow a very similar mold used and popularised by Al Capone. See? That 2-minute random history lesson was leading somewhere. I bet you thought it wasn't. Oh, you literally don't fucking care? Okay, fair, I'll move on. That formula is this. Criminals in bathroom, listen up. Placement, layering, then integration. Which in essence is a fancy way of just saying all that shit I was vaguely chatting about earlier on. Placement, the first step, is where Al Capone would be proud. It involves taking the illicit money and introducing it into the financial system legally. The goal is to move the money away from its source and into a more legit financial stream. Then we have the second phase, layering. This stage is where money is moved around to further obscure and complicate its illegal origins. In films, this is where a crooked super accountant or genius will come out of nowhere and do some shit on a computer for a while, as this step is extremely complex and requires multiple transactions. This part usually involves offshore accounts, wire transfers, shell companies, and trust funds. The final stage, integration, is where the cleaned money is surgically reintroduced into the economy to appear legitimate. Funding businesses, gambling, buying real estate, all of that takes place at this point. Now, before you go cheering and high-fiving running out of that toilet, you should know this. The reason for the drastic evolution of money laundering is the opposition has also been evolving over time. Severe policy changes, anti-money laundering regulations, and financial action task forces have all been introduced, and the risk has never been higher. Procedures to verify and confirm the identity of clients and the actions they take have been implemented. Laws and regulations that require financial institutions to monitor and report any suspicious or questionable activities have been introduced. And there are quite literally international bodies that make sure there are effective legal and operational measures for combating money laundering in place. So yeah, I hate to tell you lads, but you are kinda screwed. So in conclusion, money laundering, bad. It's done by some dodgy people who need to cover their tracks and find ways to clean dirty and illegal funds. From scary mobsters in the 1920s to crypto bro Brad in 2024. The actual act of laundering money is extremely complex and requires a lot. First and foremost, an actual reason to do it in the first place. I mean, no one clicking on the Soxy YouTube channel has the need to launder money. But, I mean, if you were to do it, there you go. Enjoy. There's my very weird and all over the place idiot's guide to money laundering. And if you happen to be watching Pasha Free 225, that glue has in fact still got me. And with that, that's it. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you've ever laundered money, and yeah, I'm now gonna go throw some money into my washing machine in an attempt to be like Al Capone. In a bit. But layman enough as in the act of turning dirty and illegally obtained money into legal usable tender.